significa que estáis comprometidos, que estéis hoy aquí significa para nosotros un respaldo a la organización de esta cumbre de cambio climático, que estoy convencida que va a brillar por todo el mundo, que desde España estamos dando un ejemplo de compromiso con un reto que es de todos, que cada uno podemos hacer en nuestro día a día cosas, pero que si trabajamos de forma colectiva, como lo estamos haciendo, con ese partenariado público-privado, sin duda la suma de todos nos va a hacer que este gran reto sea algo alcanzable. Creo que la COP nos va a dar ese impulso, estamos convencidos, gracias por comprometeros y sin duda desde el Gobierno de España os agradecemos que estéis aquí, que nos ayudéis a trasladar al mundo que es posible, que se puede luchar contra el cambio climático, que se puede generar oportunidades en torno al cambio climático. Así que gracias y os dejo con Gloria, no sé si es la que vas a hablar ahora. Muy bien, que es, siempre lo digo, una inspiración para el sector turístico. De hecho, ella va por delante a veces de lo que las administraciones ponemos en nuestra agenda, nos inspira. Iberostar, sabéis que recibió además en la World Travel Planet el premio al proyecto de sostenibilidad, así que gracias por inspirarnos, por ayudarnos también a entender cómo desde las administraciones podemos ayudar al sector empresarial a que esto sea posible, a que nos comprometamos y, sin duda, experiencias como la de la empresa Iberostar, que hace que las demás nos sumemos a este gran impulso de que el sector turístico y la sostenibilidad es un eje tractor también para nuestra economía. Somos una potencia turística, pero queremos ser también una potencia turística haciendo bien las cosas. Así que mejor manera de hacerlo que respetando nuestro medio ambiente, que respetando nuestros recursos y que haciendo nuestros recursos también un valor. Así que muchísimas gracias a Iberostar, a Gloria, que está liderando este proyecto. Yo te conocí hace un año y medio, en un acto muy bonito con la reina, y ya tuve la oportunidad de ver que este proyecto que estabais empezando empieza a ser ya un proyecto país, un proyecto global, así que empresas como Iberostar nos inspiráis, todos estáis aquí para sumarnos a este compromiso y es tiempo de actuar por el planeta, así que ánimo y a no parar de aquí a la siguiente COP, a seguir brillando y a seguir disfrutando de estos compromisos que sitúan a España a la vanguardia del cambio climático. Muchísimas gracias.
Pues muchas gracias por sus palabras, ministra, alta comisionada, conseller. Muchas gracias a todos por venir esta tarde. En nombre del Grupo Iberostar represento conjuntamente con mi hermana la cuarta generación y nos hace mucha ilusión el estar aquí en un evento como el COP25 presentes. Dar una vez más la enhorabuena al Gobierno español por haber organizado este evento en tiempo récord y también con este nivel de éxito. Y por parte nuestra, sin demorarme más, como esto es un esfuerzo colectivo, quiero que el equipo haga la presentación de este movimiento. Y estarán hoy con ustedes la doctora Megan Morikawa, que lleva todo el esfuerzo global de la Oficina de Sostenibilidad del Grupo Iberostar, y el señor Fernando García, que es el consejero de Recursos Global de la compañía y que se encarga de toda la parte ya de circularidad desde la perspectiva de inversiones. Entonces, sin más demora, le doy la introducción a Megan para que pueda compartir con ustedes. Muchas gracias.
Coge el mío si quieres.
Can you hear me? Ooh, indeed. Now it is working. We're here today at COP25, and I think it is very clear that climate change is a reality today. Not only are we receiving confirmations from the IPCC reports that hurricanes are expected to become more severe, but we're also seeing the impacts of ocean warming with global bleaching events. And even if we are able to all come together, which I very much hope we can, to achieve 1.5 degrees by 2050, we're still expected to lose 90% of our coral reefs that remain and protect the communities and tourism that are so important to these countries. Finally, there are also other global stressors that are present and make matters a lot worse. The change of nutrients in our global oceans has caused sargassum blooms that are providing new challenges to tourism. When we combine these two together, climate change, some of these global stressors, the problems mount every time more. But we also cannot forget that there are local stressors like marine pollution, overfishing of critical species that help to keep the reefs and the ecosystems in balance, as well as continued development in a lot of the coastal regions, a trend we expect to continue. Here we have an image of dredging in the precious seagrass beds of the Mediterranean. And there is a way to ensure that the industrialization of our coastlines can also be done in a sustainable manner. This is why it is time for action. And I hope that you've all been seeing in this conference a number of ways that we're hoping to guide that action, be that through circular economy, behavior change, nature-based solutions. And what I hope that you see today is how Iberostar Group and our Wave of Change movement has embodied each of these into everything that we do, from the DNA of our company to the programs that we have in our foundation to the ways in which we work on protecting our coastlines. I have 3 takeaways that I hope for you to see from this presentation. The first is to see a glimpse of what our definition or what our vision of the role of the private sector in finding these solutions should be. And when we apply those solutions in a real-world setting, what we find is that there's actually the way to bring much-needed science in surprising new settings. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit about some of those, that investigation that we're actually doing with this movement that also helps to push the boundaries of knowledge of what we know on how to protect our planet. Finally, I would like to introduce you to our concept of responsible tourism and a way that we believe this sector is transitioning towards these solutions ingrained in the way that we function as businesses that not only brings our suppliers, our other businesses, and our clients along with us, but actually can add value to the experience for the client that can be done alongside and perhaps necessarily with quality and luxury that allows for clients to experience and perhaps even be a part of the solution when they travel and explore the world and understand better what the problems are that face those communities. First, I'd love to tell you a little bit about Iberostar. Iberostar is a Spanish-based, family-owned company, as Gloria has presented, with 120 hotels in over 19 countries of operation and growing. Spanish roots and a global impact. There's 32,000 employees, 8 million clients, and a very strong base of repeating clients. But I think it's very clear to us as a tourism business, it's hard to imagine tourism without imagining the ocean. And 80% of our hotels are beachline properties. Therefore, the protection of this critical resource is incredibly important to the business, incredibly important to our clients and suppliers, and is such the focus of our Wave of Change movement. What makes Iberostar unique? We have our 5 unique selling points, our personality, gastronomy, quality, sustainability, and location. And what that means to us are the movements and initiatives that are realized in our everyday practices, from how we operate to how we create a new client experience to how we protect the ocean. What I'm excited to talk to you about today is what we've done in the past couple of years with our Wave of Change movement. Wave of Change was born only 2.5 years ago, and I hope that you can see it is a wave that keeps growing and doesn't stop. But I have no better way to introduce the Wave of Change movement than from the family Flusha, and so I'm going to play a little video and then talk more about some of the details that are behind this movement.
birth of that?
The concern for the environment starts when I was born, in fact.
Mainly it has come through my daughter Gloria.
It has to do a lot with the uprising that my mother did to my sister and I.
Has inherited from her mother.
I've always lived with that concern and with that sensitivity towards the ocean, towards the environment.
We were very close every time to nature. We had all kinds of animals always running around in the house. From my mother's side, the family, they're all scientists, ornithologists, biologists, zoologists. It started with a trip that I did on my own and visited a couple of countries that I did not know with very foreign languages, and I was premeditating a little bit how to conceptualize the movement, and when I came back, that was 2 years ago, the movement of a wave of change was born.
It's not a project, it's a movement.
First thing I did was ask my father and my sister what they thought about it.
It's a real problem for the humanity.
I remember that meeting perfectly well. I was with my sister in this office.
They completely were aligned and they clicked.
To the point that it's becoming a key aspect of our brand identity. The ocean. What an interesting question.
The ocean for me is literally everything.
To the sea, I would say, don't get worse.
And to still have trust in us.
And we have to take care.
So be patient, because we're going to give you your space and we're going to be allowing you to recover your health.
The sea means freedom for me.
The corals are only 1% of the seafloor bed, but at the end they host 25% of marine life. That is fascinating.
Getting to explore with Gloria what the potential of wave of change is.
To give solutions to the scientific world.
The issues and the areas of potential solutions in every various different location.
How can we give back to the coral restoration community? All that for me would be utopia again as well.
This mentality of responsibility, of looking inwards, of changing their own habits, changing their family's habit.
Estamos haciendo algo que es muy importante.
Cuando decimos, vamos a ver si podemos ir más allá de plásticos en todo el nivel social.
What were the first personal changes?
Y es que la organización se implica.
This is something that you have to make on your own and you have to empower yourself to do it, right?
Tenemos que trabajar porque obviamente hay que hacer un cambio en la sociedad.
Consumo responsable, no solamente en pesca, ¿no? En todo.
Pues me entusiasma que hagamos aquí pruebas piloto y que seamos nosotros también pioneros. Y la ola de cambio es adrenalina.
14 rooms, but not with our sizes, right?
With that level of passion and commitment, it was now our job to put the strategy and strength behind that, to realize that into each of the initiatives that I'm excited to present to you. Specifically, Wave of Change touches many of the UN's Sustainability Development Goals, but we really have a focus on life underwater and responsible consumption and production. And a number of the sub-targets, we really wanted to make sure that our initiatives were aligning with our global targets. And thus the Wave of Change philosophy is born, that we take the best of Iberostar, its locations, the family-owned, its ability to be agile in its purchasing decisions, and the ocean's biggest problems. And when we intersect those two, those are the catalytic projects that we hope that we can add the most value to being able to find solutions. I now get to introduce the pillars. Wave of Change is categorized into 3 pillars, but I think you'll see there's a lot of growth and combination amongst them. The first is moving beyond plastics and towards a circular economy. Second is a commitment to the responsible consumption of seafood. And the third is coastal health. And for us, it's realized as the discovery, protection, and restoration of the coral reefs, mangroves, and seagrasses that are the critical ecosystems that protect our hotels. What I'm going to do is give you a couple of highlights and overviews of the major achievements that we've had in the last year, in depth for each of the pillars. And then Fernando and I are going to go into a case study for each of them so that you can see a little bit more about the complexity in the strategy that we're trying to bring to the achievements of Wave of Change. In our commitment to move beyond plastics and towards a circular economy, we had our first hotel with rooms free of single-use plastics a year and a half ago. Today, this is realized as a movement that is being implemented across all of our hotels. And by the end of this month, we are excited to celebrate that we'll be single-use plastics free in all of our rooms. This is a movement that continues to grow. And as part of that, I think what has been an incredibly unique aspect was the innovation from the purchasing team and from our suppliers to be able to achieve those targets. From thinking about multi-use dispensers, but not only that, thinking about the origin of the materials. Our multi-use dispensers are made out of 100% post-consumer recycled plastic. Looking at ways to combine non-synthetic materials with high luxury products, finding alternatives for our amenities. Looking at innovative solutions to room service, not using saran wrap, but packaging food in a different way to be able to bring our clients along in this experience with us. As well as working with our providers to say, we've worked with you for many years, how can we innovate on this packaging and have items that are now in glass containers with paper films so that we avoid that plastic contamination and are able to recycle 100% of their components. Another really critical part of this process was to say it's about the method to first reduce and then reuse and then look for alternatives. So in that process, we were able to avoid the use of 523 tons of plastic, and this is a number we're very proud of, but are also looking forward to see grow as we continue to implement in our operations. A part of that reuse was saying, look, we can find alternatives to plastic water bottles, but we know that in many countries, there don't exist waste management systems to be able to recycle them. So how can we go to a reuse model and invest in installing a network of fountains so that our clients could join us in these efforts and have bottles that come empty in their rooms that they fill with us in order to work towards the wave of change? That was only the beginning, and we're starting to think more holistically about the cycle, including where those biodegradable alternatives can go. So we started with 3 pilot programs to work on composting and had great collaborators who helped us to actually test the compostability of those items and see whether or not the technical data sheets were accurate. In that process, in building that infrastructure to be able to compost our biodegradable products, we opened up the doorway to be able to compost food waste that we were generating. With a pilot project, the hotel in Spain, we're now learning about the various categories of food waste so that we can learn how to better reduce our use and generation of waste in certain areas. In our work in a commitment to a responsible consumption of seafood, I'm going to go into more detail about some of the comprehensive analyses we've been doing. But as a highlight, we were excited to join with WWF US to be able to do a comprehensive global risk assessment. And we also wanted to continuously focus on local opportunities. For us, that meant that we were the first hotel chain to observe the lobster ban in the Dominican Republic, because sometimes what's best for local fisheries is to not eat them in certain parts of the year. And we were able to work on traceability of our products at a very local scale. In coastal health, I'm excited to go into detail about our coral program in just a moment, but education was also really, really critical to us. So Iberostar started this year with its Cátedra del Mar at the University of the Balearic Islands, and we administered 10 scholarships for students studying marine ecology to be able to continue this work in the Mediterranean. We've implemented educational programs in Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, and Mexico to help kids learn about the value of coastal ecosystems. For many of them, we started with simple concepts like, did you know coral is an animal? And it was amazing to see the value that was given and what we learned from those communities as well as parts of these efforts. Finally, science is a really strong foundation for coastal health. So scientists were part of the process of helping us to build the work that we have that I'm excited to show you in this first case study of coastal health. So with coastal health, which again is our commitment to the discovery, protection, and restoration of coral reefs, mangroves, and seagrasses, our starting point was in coral reefs. And specifically, I want to tell you about our initiatives on scaling climate-resilient reef restoration and for coastal protection in the Caribbean. It's very clear for our resorts that are beachfront that in the Caribbean, coral reefs are a critical part of our ecosystem. That's our hotel in Bávaro, and just meters from the coastline, you can see these structures, which are in fact the coral reefs that are providing protection to the hotels during storm, that serve as the living seawalls that respond to sea level rise, that provide home for important fisheries for local communities, and that for us are an incredible drive for tourism. It's an amazing thing to dive on the reefs near our hotels in the Caribbean. We wanted to quantify how important these reefs were to the company. So we did an initial analysis and saw that 80% of our coastline in the Caribbean was covered by coral reefs. This was a major driver for knowing that this was an important ecosystem we needed to help protect. In total, about 6 square kilometers of coral reefs represented this area. However, we also know that globally, coral reefs are facing many stressors and many causes of decline. Not only climate change, but also new diseases that are popping up and wiping out coral reefs. So we knew that protection was important, and we're working on areas of protection, but restoration was also a really critical part and piece of this puzzle. We started in the Dominican Republic with partners, our NGO partners, Fundamar, and built a coral nursery that now has over 40 structures growing in the region. We were informed by best practices. I actually did my PhD in coral reef restoration, so there was a lot of knowledge behind putting some of these studies into action. And in just a year and a half, the structures that we placed in the water began to grow enormously. We saw huge, huge growth in reefs, and something I had never seen before was that on our structures, we're bringing whole entire schools of fish that were living in these communities. This told us that restoration was possible in the places where we operate. Because, as I said, science is a driving part of what we do, we actually have a science team that is full-time employed by Iberostar that is helping us to do this research. Joana Calle Trevino, who is working with us in Mexico, actually did her PhD in our reefs in the Dominican Republic. And here, she found that as you planted these corals, you could actually quantify the health of the ecosystem going back up. That not only meant an increase in live coral, but it also meant it was bringing back the critical organisms that help to keep the ecosystem in balance. So for us, this was an incredibly promising indicator that coral reef restoration could work. But we know that corals face extreme bleaching events, and bleaching can wipe out the entire operation in the matter of months. So we needed to be able to protect against that as well. As Iberostar's response, we built a lab. In our complex in the Dominican Republic, we transformed a former yoga palapa into a state-of-the-art coral nursery and laboratory facility, where we are able to house a genetic bank of coral that are growing in the region. This proved to be incredibly important to protect reefs from a disease that is wiping through the Dominican Republic. It also serves as an outreach center for our employees and our clients, many of them to see what a coral looks like for the first time in their lives. This is an opportunity for our clients to engage with our scientists, to participate in the work that we're doing in coastal health, and to learn something and contribute to this work during their stay with us at Iberostar. But finally, I want to talk about this control system. The reason why this is exciting and important is because we actually built a state-of-the-art control system in our lab that allows us to recreate warming events. So we can see the winners and losers of bleaching, or who we hope to be the winners of losers, of coral bleaching before a bleaching event happens. That informs our ability to do smart reef restoration. This is work that I actually did in my PhD at Stanford to demonstrate that if you use these techniques, you're able to plant coral that survive multiple bleaching events over and over again when you choose the right individuals to start with. We're very excited about the ability to scale this sort of research. In fact, this was, for me, what was most attractive about moving to the private sectors. You have the capacity to scale in multiple geographic locations. This is an effort that we're now doing and starting in Mexico. But I think what's really important is that our coastal health started with coral reefs, but will continue to grow to other ecosystems. We have a pilot project in the Dominican Republic where we're planting mangrove trees within our properties to help with nutrient filtering from our wastewater effluent. And we're looking to scale this across the areas where we're able to protect the mangroves and replant mangroves to help with carbon sequestration. We're also working on actual protection. In Jamaica, we're very excited to be working with a local NGO, Orcabeza Foundation, and the fishing community to see if we can co-establish a new marine protected area in front of the hotel itself. Always, as I stated before, looking for ways to scale these practices around where we operate. And most importantly, we're very excited to start learning more about what role we can play here in the Mediterranean. We started with education, with our scholarship at the Cátedra del Mar. But now we're looking for all of these opportunities where we can help using the geographic positions of our hotels. Climate change is expected to affect the southern Mediterranean fastest. We have hotels in that region where we can start to work on those sorts of problems and see how Iberostar can contribute. So that's a little bit of what we're doing with coastal health. Next, I want to talk to you about our commitment to a responsible consumption of seafood, specifically through our initiative to achieve global traceability in our seafood supply chains. About a century ago, we used to think the ocean was limitless. We know that is very much not true. And in fact, 93 of wild-caught fisheries have been fully or overexploited, which means a lot of the ocean needs to be effectively managed in order for us to continue this last wild harvest for generations to come. Of that volume of seafood, unfortunately, it's very hard to assess whether or not practices are responsible or not. Only 37% of global fisheries have been assessed or evaluated for their sustainability. And of that, only 6% of global seafood is certified as sustainable. We saw it as a window, an avenue to start. And so in the last 18 months, we were looking for ways to bring that certified seafood to Iberostar. We were the first hotel in all of Southern Europe, Mexico, and the Dominican Republic to receive chain of custody to bring MSC and ASC certified seafood products into our restaurants. But what was most incredible is that our suppliers joined us in this movement. And 15% of our suppliers, representing 60% of our total volume, also achieved the chain of custody of certification to bring sustainable product into countries where it had never been before. In the past year, we've consumed over 130 tons of certified seafood, which is a figure we're very proud of. But when we look at the global picture, what we see is that represents less than 5% of what we consume in seafood as Iberostar. So our next step was to assess the rest. We're very excited to have hired a responsible seafood strategy director who comes to us from fair trade and has extensive experience in sustainable seafood supply chains. And we're working with our partners at WWF US to be able to collect an insane amount of information about our seafood products so that we have a better sense of knowing whether or not they're responsible. Everything you see in these pictures, we need to know about our products, how it was caught, the size of the population, whether or not there were other species present that accidentally were caught or bycatch, who the primary processing facility was, an extensive list that, again, our suppliers are working with us tirelessly to help us achieve this sort of information. What happens when we get traceability? We're able to make more informed decisions about the sourcing and origin of our seafood. Since this is a lot of new information, this was not possible without extensive education. And one of our other initiatives in this past year was to work with a group called Fishwise, who helped us to do internal training for our top management. That internal training then turned into training all the way down to our chefs to be able to effectively implement all of the knowledge we were building. And importantly, to our clients and suppliers, who not only joined in that movement with us, but were very excited about the ways in which our clients can join us in the future once we have a picture of traceability and explore new gastronomy when it comes to seafood. There are many options that are certified at a global scale, like salmon and tuna, but we also are interested in diversifying the palette and seeing ways that our clients can join us in that journey. In achieving this traceability, it also opens the door for us to support local communities, something that has always been a value to Iberostar. Unfortunately, in the certified seafood, very few of it comes from local regions in some of the places where we operate. So we're also working to find ways to support fisheries and improvement and fisheries that are invasive or new to certain regions, whether that be looking at sustainably caught lobster in a fisheries improvement project in Quintana Roo, to looking at options of making gastronomic excellence out of the invasive blue crab that is now infiltrating the Mediterranean. We're excited about ways to bring in these local products. Adriana, our Seafood Strategy Director, has only been on board with us for a couple of weeks, but we're moving very quickly, and with all of the data we've collected, we are very excited to be announcing our transparent, time-bound goals for global traceability and responsibility in our seafood supply chain. We invite you to check in with us in a couple of months at waveofchange.com, where we will be announcing some of this progress on our global supply chain and steps towards responsible consumption of seafood. Finally, in our move beyond plastics, I'm excited to introduce Fernando Garcia, who's going to talk to you about the ways in which this movement has truly become ingrained as part of our DNA transversely across the operations, and he specifically will be talking about curating the destination by embracing circular economy.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Megan. Thanks, everyone, for being here. After all this, and after a year and a half, almost 2 years, one could sit down and say, wow, let's see that wave move. Let's see how it goes, and let's see if we need to do something else. But we realized that we are in a world that we need to change, or we need to evolve, and we need to go into a more responsible tourism in which we believe on. And it was impossible to stop. It was impossible to stop the enthusiasm within the company, the enthusiasm within our partners, enthusiasm within everything and everywhere. So we began to see that from the 3 pillars that we initially expected, that reaching the goals that you have just seen and Megan has just presented, we approach on a holistic view. What if was the question? What if we do it from a holistic point of view? What if we do it from the heart of the company? What if we do it with really and see that what we are doing is really moving, and we really want to start from the beginning? So we decided to take some really important operational changes, which is very tough. We needed to change the behavior, how we moved, how we approached, how our partners believed on, and even on the construction side. Because at the end of the day, when one thinks on the travel industry and the industry where we are, in the tourism industry, the heart of our operations is a hotel, it's a facility. At the end of the day, that facility, you need to think about it like a living thing, because it evolves within the history. So at the end of the day, we approach this circular economic topic, where you probably have read about it much. There's much literature. We looked at William McDougall. He's one of the leaders in terms of architecture in the world. He speaks about the 5 goods: the good energy, the good materials, the good economy, the good water, and the good lives. And there's many literature, but we are a small company, and there's lots of things that you can do, but you have to start from something. So we decided to take that approach and to be focused very much on the cradle-to-cradle approach and philosophy. Whether one product you have it, once you take it, you bring it back to its initial phase, and with no doubt, with the best thing you can do is once you dispose that element, it's clear that it has its initial DNA concept. So we started with the energy, with the water, and with the residuals. You have seen a little bit about it. Okay, now that we have that, and this is small, it's on purpose, it's our own definition that we created on thinking what should be a responsible hotel facility. And I'm going to read it loud. A hotel or resort that in its design, construction, and operation maintenance guarantees compliance with the applicable legal and regulatory framework and voluntarily commits its value groups to implement national and international environmental principles and good practices that ensure the conservation of ecosystems, their environmental goods and services, and at the same time, it is concerned to generate social, economic benefits for the local population with respect to its traditional and cultural values. So it's a long sentence, it's a long definition, but it's ours. We created it, and through those principles, we needed to start. And everyone can create their own definition of what responsible tourism is. So it's something, it's a start, and now the philosophy that is behind this sentence, the responsibility that this sentence means, is the one that needs to drive us within our day-to-day operations. Going into the construction and refurbishment of any building, the heart of a company, the heart of at Iberostar, our assets, we knew we needed to commit some things. We need that the commercial area needed to do some things, needed things. We needed that the operational teams, we need to commit with the legal and even go above what legal necessities are. Of course, environment. So we created our own policy, our own definition, and our own guide to make sure that when we go into one construction, building, conceptual, any hotel, we make sure that we take these 6 steps. First of all, we need to look at the plot, the land where we are sitting, when we will be placing the hotel, because we know that we make a change in the environment. We know that, but what we need to really do is how we can minimize that impact, and how probably in the future we can be even neutral, carbon neutral in the future. That's a goal, that's an aim, but we need to start from the beginning, from the conceptual process. Then, of course, the water use, the energy, being as clean as possible, the materials and resources, trying to understand how those materials will behave during the life of the construction and the building. Of course, the quality. We need to make sure that the comfort is not avoided, because at the end of the day, customers come to our facilities and they want to experience a different, a great vacation with us. And of course, innovation. Innovation is very, very important. And with data, this cannot be done. We need to measure. We need to make, as long as we already have a very strong footprint, you've just seen over 120 hotels throughout the world, we can measure how those assets are behaving today. From what we need today, from what we see today, what we measure and we know about them today, we can predict how they will be behaving in the future. So, and with that prediction, we can define, conceptualize, and build the new hotels doing this way. So, I'd like to show you a few examples of what we're doing, bringing this into earth, bringing this down to reality. There's very, very simple things that we are doing. First of all, our own people. We are here speaking, over 32,000 people, that they are very enthusiastic about this movement. And this is nothing new. The BIM is a very typical tool for the architects to see and to predict and to build any new construction. We didn't use it in the past. Even our architects, our partners, didn't use it in the past. Even our own internal design team, technical team, and architects, which we have them internally, didn't use them. So we needed to train them with this tool to make sure that they build it as efficient as possible, and with this mindset of thinking that the building will be behaving and will be living, there will be blood, there will be bones, there will be lots of things within that building. And we need to make sure how this evolves in the future. Because at the end of the day, one project may take from 1 to 5 years to realize. But then the tough thing is how you can be operating that, and that the infrastructure of that building and that asset behaves the same in the next 10, 15, 30 years. So this part is essential to have all the partners and everyone trying to design as efficient as possible for that to come. But then we needed to keep on educating our internal people and external people, our partners, our providers. So we will be shortly be hiring a circular economy strategy director because we are very committed with it. We will be making lots of workshops internally so that people are still within this movement, and we are sharing it and we are learning it with the best practices, and nothing better than the recent jointment that we made with the Alan MacArthur Foundation C100, and even with a foundation at the Balearic Island, the Foundation Impulsa, who will be helping us in, again, trying to bring this to earth, bring this down to reality, to make sure that this is really a movement that not only us, but more people join and more people apply this knowledge into the reality. And with that, not only internally but externally, we are sure that for any asset will have its own autonomy and its all the movement. Data. As I mentioned before, data is critical. We all now have internally lots of sensors. We normally have measured a lot of things internally, but within a central perspective. Now what we're doing is digging down and going down exactly on what is causing what. For instance, we are in the pilot of 4 different resorts and hotels. We are putting sensors in the oven in the kitchen. We're putting sensors in the room. We're putting sensors in the swimming pool. We're putting sensors at the lobby, because we want to know how that asset is behaving. And if we know and we obtain that data and we analyze it, we can then predict, again, how it's going to be moving, and then we can build it from a different way to make sure that we decrease the amount of CO2 that we are putting into the atmosphere. Because, again, we are putting CO2 in the atmosphere. So it's critical data to be used. Another simple action, I mean, how we engage with the environments that we will be setting the new placements. For instance, these are two projects that we will be developing in the future. One is at Baja California, and the other one is in Aruba. We need to collaborate with the local authorities. We need to collaborate with the ONGs. We need to facilitate information to make sure that, like Megan mentioned, when we go over there, we know exactly what the environment is and how can we, for sure, make the less impact to that environment as possible. And that's something that we are very proud, and even the institutions where we speak to them, we even surprise them. We go beyond the legal statements that they have. We want to make sure that they think the same way, and the way is to be very committed and very responsible with the environment we touch. In terms of energy, and these are very simple things that anyone can do, we decided 1.5 years ago that any refurbished project, we will be installing recharging points for electrical vehicles, regardless of if that country or that placement has lots or not. It's open to anyone. So nowadays, we have spread this initiative throughout all of our hotels in Spain, and it's amazing how even customers ask, because for instance, at the Balearic Island, I mean, the rental car industry is very big, but there's a very, very few electric cars, which is very easy to, at the end of the day, to change that. But there's no recharging points, so we decided to go with it. Solar panels have been with us for many, many years, But the hybrid solar panels, which are more efficient, which use the spectrum as its fully 100% usage, it's not new, but it looks like it's new in the industry. They're more expensive, it's true, in the initial part, in the investment. But at the end of the day, if they are more efficient, and throughout the life, they will be sharing with us the benefits of having the nature of providing the energy to the hotels, to the facilities. And then very simple, at the Dominican Republic, we have recently refurbished a hotel. We opened it on the 22nd of November, and we replaced over 100 vehicles of fuel combustion vehicles, engine vehicles. And we will be replacing the rest in the Americas, over 350 vehicles that we have. We will be replacing them for electric vehicles in the next 3 years. And this is simple things that anyone can do. And the more that probably we are proud of, this is, you may see, this is the same exact room, a 3-star hotel, converted into a 5-star hotel. It's the same exact furniture. This is part of the circular economy. At the end of the day, the comfort is exactly even better. The customer sleeps in the same or sits in the same sofa. The customer has the same. Those furniture over there had 15 years. They've been refurbished and they're being used. We are nowadays more used to buy, consume, and throw away. So when the concept is brought to the table, we need, and we've been doing this for many years, and not in terms of saving money. It's a commitment that we need to make sure, and it's very easy. Once we go through a refurbishing process in any of our hotels, the first thing we do, and we ask our design group and our architects, make sure that you have 100% shown and seen every single element to make sure that it's reusable. And it's one of the main elements. And it's very, very simple. As a conclusion, and we will be open to any questions that any of you may have. As Megan mentioned, we believe that the role of the private sector is very important. We are open, the private sector needs to open their facilities, their knowledge, to make sure that any innovation is brought in to foster even more what a responsible tourism is. Secondly, science. I mean, it was hard to think when Megan joined the company how scientists could help us. And it's amazing. It's amazing. They look at it from another perspective, another approach. I mean, I'm sorry, Megan, these guys here, I mean, they bring, have you thought on? No, I haven't thought about that. I mean, life was much easier, to tell you the truth, but it was much poorer. Now it's richer. That's something that is really important, to open to scientists and allow them. There are many, many scientists there that want to participate within these projects. And finally, but not least, we believe in this transition of towards a responsible tourism. We believe in it. We see it. We see the customers that come to our facilities, that experience that tourism, they clap at us. You see the surveys. You see, I mean, it's still a small portion of those customers, but it's huge, the amount of information that they are demanding. And it's something that we really need to foster. So in a summary, how we say, we need to make awareness, we need to educate, especially our internal people, to make sure that they are in this movement. We need to make sure that we give a space to external people. We would like not to come here with examples. We want to lead and help others join in this movement. And for sure, we hope you all join this movement in the future. Thank you very much. So time for any questions. Believe me, Megan speaks better Spanish than mine, so it could be in Spanish or in English. So, so if anyone has any question. None? Yep, please. Ajá. Muy bien. La pregunta es, ¿qué parámetros hemos usado para medir la sostenibilidad? Pues la verdad es que los parámetros son muy amplios, pero nos hemos focalizado en 3 básicos conceptos. Primero, en todo lo que tiene que ver con la energía, todo lo que tiene que ver con el agua y todo lo que tiene que ver con los residuos. A partir de ahí, el parámetro más sencillo es la capacidad energética que ocupamos para medir esa sostenibilidad y cuál es la emisión de carbono que estamos realizando. A partir de esos principios básicos, la idea es cómo podemos sustituirlos. Podríamos ir mucho más allá, somos conscientes, pero para nosotros ese parámetro de cuál es la energía que estamos usando para generar o utilizar cualquiera de los recursos, ese es el principal que estamos usando. Como trasladaba, ya hoy podemos tener perfectamente medida la huella de carbono y la vamos a tener a finales de este año que generamos en todo el mundo, hotel por hotel, pero estamos tratando de ir mucho más profundo y ver en cada una de las instalaciones cuál es el verdadero elemento que está generando el mayor impacto. Porque al final, si somos capaces de generar ese impacto, podremos identificar qué palancas, qué acciones podemos mitigar ese impacto. Para nuestra sorpresa, pensábamos que las habitaciones podían ser uno de los elementos, como se repiten muchas veces, la habitación podía ser un elemento que generaba la mayor huella. Para nuestra sorpresa es el menor. Las cocinas, por ejemplo, es el mayor, las cámaras, las enfriadoras de aire acondicionado, esos son los grandes elementos que están muy concentrados y son relativamente fáciles evidentemente se pueden sustituir por equipos más eficientes. Pues al final, para nosotros, el parámetro de generación de energía es el principal caballo de Troya que vamos a luchar en los próximos años.
I think Fernando has summarized that very well in terms of what we're thinking about for circularity, how much energy we're using, our carbon footprint, the residuals that we're generating, and the amount of water that we're using, right? Sourcing the efficiency and the disposal of. But I think what's really fantastic is it's a very diverse ecosystem. So the metrics for seafood are about percentage of certification, but also percentage of projects that we can also start, right? Some of them are more case studies. How can we support or perhaps establish our own or help to generate new fisheries improvement projects as part of that work? One of the most challenging ones for us is ecosystem health, because I would say that even in the scientific field, we don't have a single metric that shows an ecosystem's trajectory in any given direction. But I'll give you an example of a few of them for, total biodiversity cover, amount of biodiversity, genetic diversity. We were at Stanford a year ago doing a genetic analysis of the reefs that you saw in those videos. And ideally, the idea would be to have a comprehensive or a suite of metrics that we can continue to measure over time to see if we are improving the ecosystem health through these efforts and through these actions. Each of these various categories has their own metrics that we're working for. There's also the client side, whether or not clients recognize wave of change, the percentage of clients that are able to perceive that and experience that on the actual hotel site, as well as those that we hope align with the values of Wave of Change and choose Iberostar because of Wave of Change. We're excited to be working with our Chief Sales Officer to align goals and actually put targets on the percentage of clients that are choosing Iberostar because of initiatives in responsible tourism and Wave of Change. So it depends on the area. There are a number of metrics that are in the air, but if we're data-driven, we need to have metrics to be able to follow.
Any other questions? Yes, thank you. Okay, the question, I think it is the response of the guests once they go to any of our facilities. It's been first of all, a flow of air, of fresh air. Because they are so much surprised. The plastic initiative, the first thing when they visited us, our repetitors at the hotel, they saw sort of a naked room because we took off the amenities, we took some some experiences that they were used to. And the first reaction was, this is because they are looking for the money. And the truth is, it's not. The truth is that we are spending more money than the other. We are putting more sophisticated and more organic products in terms of the amenities. We are using compost coffee capsules, which are even more expensive than the ones that we used to. We have replaced the bags. We have replaced the plastic bags in the room. We are replacing, and I can tell you the amount of investment to replace the bottles of plastic. It's tremendous, the amount of money which is behind it. We are installing osmosis fountains throughout our hotels. In Europe, it's easy because you just replace plastic with glass. But at the Caribbean, glass, it's a premium drink. So, and there's no many companies, only one big company with red and white in their logo that is doing that. So and they couldn't afford to put the demand of water that we needed it at our resorts. So we are putting these new fountains. And when you tell the story to the customer why you are doing it, the acceptances and the surveys tell us that we are in the right direction. We are at the beginning, but we are sure and committed that this is the right path. This is the right path for sure.
I think it's something really clear that it's amazing. I like to say, once you see a hotel rooms free of single-use plastics, you can never go back. You see it in all of the new locations, right? It's like, why does this need to be wrapped in plastic? And so on that side, I think there's been an incredible response, and Fernando is exactly right. It's been a lot of surprise. But I also think that, wow, it's something special to be walking in a resort in the Dominican Republic, and all of a sudden you come across what you think is a yoga palapa, but it's actually a state-of-the-art coral research facility. So this intersection as well of being able to bring in that design. And let me tell you, thanks to Iberostar, this coral lab looks far more beautiful than if scientists had designed the structure itself. But that intersection allows it to be an experience for clients to learn more about these ecosystems and these resources as well. So the response has been incredibly positive.
All right, no more questions? Yes.
With the coral reforestation and the projects that you're running are having great results. Which are the objectives for the future? I mean, do you have an objective to reforest, I don't know, how many, kilometers of whatever?
Well, at least we know we have 5.6 kilometers of reefs in front of the Iberostar.
Which we didn't know before we entered this process.
And to us in the coral reef community, when you talk about hundreds of millions of square kilometers in the Great Barrier Reef, that number is very depressing. It can be very weighty. But when you talk about 6 square kilometers, it's actually a very hopeful figure. So I think we start there, and that is what protects our hotels, but that has spillover effects for the community as well. It's also impacted by our neighbors. It can be beneficial to our neighbors, but the practices of our neighbors also can impact those operations, which is why curating the destination and having this be a movement of responsible tourism in the sector is a really important part of that.
And to complement also, like for instance, in one country like Aruba, when we approached the local authorities and told them that we wanted to look not only inland, but to the sea, to the corals, they were amazed. So they were saying, no one has ever asked us what is happening on the sea. So again, this movement, and they are very, very involved. So it's not only the goal of trying not to reduce the total footprint. The goal is to make others conscious of what if we do not what we think it should be done.
Congratulations for everything. Earlier you said that you didn't do it for the money, right? So I wanted to ask you, in your communication with the customer, when the customer arrives at the room, what kind of, if you have followed a certain approach or kind of communication, you know, to take that into account, or
to make it clear, we are not an ONG, so we are here in the business to make money. That's reality. But the truth is that when the customers come, and to the first reaction of, well, this room looks different to other ones, I mean, when you tell them why we are doing it, why those products are more sustainable, why what that goes towards are responsible, they fully understand the initiative, and we even are beginning to see some repetitors because of the initiative. So they want to see how that is evolving and how that is moving. For instance, the coral facilities that we build, it's amazing how customers approach the facility. It's in a really privileged and premium site, and they ask, I mean, Megan mentioned it. I mean, I don't know how many of you have ever seen a coral. Not many, for sure. I mean, it's the first time that people are looking and seeing, not touching because they cannot be touched, because it's a living organism. So at the end of the day, we're here to make business, that's for sure. We make an impact, but we need to make sure that we reduce that impact and that some part of what we obtain, we give back to the environment.
Sabina, Flusha, our CEO, has a quote that I really love, and I'm going to paraphrase it. But basically, you know, the essence of tourism is to discover new places and to discover something about yourself, right? And part of a brand that has these values and these identities that allows you to be able to set the tone for that sort of discovery. What a better time to talk about the importance of oceans for many people who've never been in the ocean than at an ocean resort. And so it's actually quite simple for us to kind of bring that joy of this resource, always with a very practical but hopeful tone, to talk about its importance to us, but then when we get into the details of what we're doing about it, that really kind of hopefully demonstrates that authenticity that we bring into everything that we do. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.